Okay, I'm calling this meeting to order at 7:02, and Monica has recorded the roll call. I'd like to call for approval of the minutes from September's meeting. Do I have an approval from anybody?
I'll approve it.
Okay, thank you, Barbara. Can I have a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Janine, second. All in favor? Aye.
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 Okay, all opposed? Good. The minutes are approved. Ray, what's going on with you?
I was responding to Sonia. She's having a problem with her Zoom.
All right, that was kind of garbled. Can we try that again?
I was responding to Sonia.
Oh, okay, good. Thank you. All right, and we have to skip Sustainable CT because our guest is not here yet, but when they get here, we will return to that person. Ray, what do you want to tell us? You got anything new on affordable housing?
We're working with the chairman. We're continuing to put the agenda together. Their meeting tomorrow night, I was hoping it was going to be in person, but their meeting tomorrow night is exclusively on Zoom. So I'm going to be working on a time to get with him again to meet. Most of the slides are prepared. We got to just kind of fine tune things, but nothing new.
Okay, thank you. And when you have a date, right?
Yeah, the date's already set. I'll have to dig it out if we need it. It was in
Okay.
January, I know.
Yep. Okay, good. I'm just going to briefly ask you if we're thinking about, we have two, what I think of as community conversations. One is the affordable housing thing. The other is the nonviolent communication workshop. Is anybody else thinking of any other community conversations that want to be designated that way? Which it really is, are there any public education program ideas floating around in anybody's mind? No. Okay, Janine, you're doing a couple of things that could maybe be there, but I want you to do them on member reports, okay?
Okay.
Thank you. All right, let's get to nonviolent communication workshop. We are set to go on October 19th at 2:00 in the afternoon, and Margaret has activated all of her publicity networks, including sending stuff home in school backpacks and dropping off flyers. And we have a flyer that Margaret dropped it off. She's left a whole bunch of stuff at the senior center and a couple of other places, I think at the library. But what I need right now, if any, it looks like this, if you haven't seen it, it's on the town website. It's very attractive because of that red thing in the corner, and we are really looking for people to make copies of the flyers or pick up copies of the flyers and drop them. Joan, if you could put them in the UCP office, that would be really good. We just need to get them there. And then we had such good success with the interfaith dialogue. We had such good attendance. I really want to repeat that. So we need to get as much publicity as possible. All
Hey,
right,
Jane, excuse me, how come it's not on our Human Rights Commission website? I was trying to find it to post it on the Mansfield, Connecticut Connections, and it was very difficult to find. It's not on any of the town things.
Yes, it is on a town thing, but you have to go. You have to go 3 layers down. You go to events. You go to October 19th. Click on that, and it will be there.
What about on our page, Human Rights Commission? Can we put it on there? Is there a way to do it?
I don't know how to do it. I thought Margaret did it, but if she didn't do it, I'll check our page.
So
Monica?
Margaret can do that. She's the one who has access to doing those things. I'm happy to just talk with her. I briefly talked to her today. Is putting or at least contacting the community center to have them posted there too. But I don't know if that's happened yet. She was going to do it shortly. And she does have a press release coming out for it too, I believe on Monday. She said she wanted to wait till after the weekend so people would remember. Because it's a long weekend for a lot of kids and stuff, so.
And I thought she was going to put the announcement on our page, but if you could just remind her, please, to do that, that would be good. I went in and talked to her the other day and got all this information, so, we just need to now really push to make sure she's got the press release. I don't know where it's gonna go, but we need to make sure that lots of people know about it. Because I really do want to get good attendance at this. For me, this is one stage of a multi-stage process, and I really would like a lot of people to know what's going on.
It
Okay,
would be great if it could be under our upcoming events on that page.
Barbara, would you mind
It's-
getting Margaret on the phone and making the suggestion?
You want me to do that?
I want you
Okay.
to do that, because
Okay.
otherwise I feel like I'm harassing her all the time. So if you could harass her, that would be really nice.
All
Okay.
right.
I mean, and she, I mean, I give her credit. She's always doing more things than anybody can do, but if you could help with that, I'd appreciate it. And Barbara, if you want to,
Sure.
can you get around easily now?
Uh,
All right, don't even
kind of.
bother.
Kind of,
Because I
I'm,
was running around, I was running around the other day dropping off flyers, and I need other people to do that as well.
Where do you want me to pick up the flyers?
We'll talk about that later. I'll get them to you.
Okay,
I've got lots of them. Okay, we're going to pivot here to Lynn and Rebecca because they are our guest and they are under new business, and we've been waiting for you, and now we're happy to have you and we're ready to listen to you.
Hi there. So sorry, we're a little late. We were just having our sustainability committee meeting that went until a few minutes after 7. So happy to join you. I'm Lynn Stoddard. I'm chair of the Mansfield Sustainability Committee, and
I'm Rebecca Stanton. I'm the new sustainable CT intern for the town.
yeah. So I think you're all familiar with Sustainable CT. And some of you came to that meeting we had back in June. We're really ramping up for our submission in August to achieve gold certification. And a big part of it is equity and inclusion progress and showcasing things we're doing there. So we just wanted to hear a little bit more about what you guys are up to and see if there are things we can collaborate on and so on. So we've heard a little bit about maybe an equity statement being worked on. I know you have an event coming up. I'm not sure if you guys are working with an equity coach from Sustainable CT, but yeah, those are a couple things we're sort of aware of. So we're really just eager to listen and collaborate on some of this stuff. And I'm happy to explain more about like the equity toolkit or anything like that, if that's helpful.
Okay, Ray, I'm going to ask you to respond to that if you can, because you.
Okay, we do have an equity coach assigned to us, Kamora.
Oh, okay.
The state, gotta slow down. The place we're at right now is that, we need to have public meetings and whatnot to get input. We can, determine the needs of the community. So we got a lot of there's a lot of writing that's around it, but really we need to do some significant polling. To identify the needs of the community.
Yes.
We have 2 public events, the affordable housing meeting we're gonna be doing in January. James talked about a nonviolent, communication thing that we're gonna do. We can, do polling at that. So we're on it, but not, we're in the drafting stages.
Okay,
Mhm.
and also Janine has been in the library a couple of times and she doing other activities, and she can do some of that too. Lynn, I started a little survey, and I wouldn't want to call it anything more than that. It wasn't fancy, but I wanted to do it at the Welcome to Mansfield thing, but I couldn't get anybody to respond to the questions in any detail, so I only got a couple of people to answer. But what I want to do is pick up on that survey and make sure that the questions are only asking one thing at a time, because I know that that's part of how you do good research. And then once we have that, my hope is that we're going to take it to the events we have, distribute it, ask for feedback, and then also go to the senior center and sit there, go to the library and sit there, find some ways to either maybe go to teachers' lounges in the various schools and sit there for a while and go to different locations and ask people, are you getting what you need in Mansfield?
Mm-hmm.
So that's my plan, but I'm wanting to get through this thing we have next Saturday or 2 Saturdays, whenever it is, before I start doing that. But I expect to have some kind of data gathering process in place for the program that we're running on nonviolent communication. So whoever's there can fill something out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that sounds great. We'd love to help out or with outreach and input or take a look at the
Yeah.
survey or whatever.
I think,
It might be good to have
right,
Kimura look at a draft of the survey. She has great insights.
Ray, do you have contact information for her?
You're muted.
For Kamara,
Yeah,
I do.
I do. Okay.
Couple
Well,
months.
I'll send what I did to Ray, then Ray can give it to Kamara. We need to expand it, make it more precise.
Yeah.
And we'll get that going so that we have something to use when we have our meeting on nonviolent communication.
Good.
Yeah, and then I think, you know, we were just talking about getting input for a survey that the Human Services Director is interested in doing on, you know, youth and senior and social services needed in the community and how we get to people that you don't usually get to. And our committee did actually door-to-door surveying one time to get input from community folks. We were talking about going to maybe some of the mobile home parks, senior center, some of the places you mentioned, like the Mansfield After School program, because this is, you know, youth services as well. So maybe there's a way to tag team on where it's not just like handing people a survey, but it's in some cases more of an interview and could tackle questions from both or somehow take advantage of reaching out to a variety of populations to get input on a bunch of different things.
All right.
I think that's a good idea. I had invited Kamara to the meeting tonight, but she couldn't make it.
Mm-hmm.
Does it make sense to have 2 different surveys, or should we just be using one survey and taking it to as many places as possible?
Yeah, I guess like what are the kinds of questions you guys were thinking of to create an equity statement?
Okay, there is an equity statement.
Right.
We have already done that, as far as I know.
It has
and-
not been approved by council yet, though, so it
But
hasn't.
it hasn't been approved by council, but we do
Or-
have that, so we're not starting with that. But what I did on my little survey was to say to people, basically, what do you like about living in Mansfield? What would make living in Mansfield more comfortable for you? And then I said, do you get enough, do you have access to adequate transportation? I didn't ask about housing because I knew somebody else was going to ask about housing. And I didn't ask about medical because it's too complicated, but I just asked about 4 or 5 questions, and it was for the Celebrate Mansfield thing. So I knew I wasn't going to get anybody to focus for too long. But I was asking people, are you getting this? Are you getting this? Are you getting this? And they're all the humans. And are your kids being treated respectfully in schools? Do you get treated respectfully on the street and in stores? Those were the kinds of questions I was asking.
Mm-hmm.
And
Well,
that-
that does seem like it could be combined with, are you getting the services you need?
I think it
maybe.
easily could. I started out with a much longer survey, and then I realized what the context was going to be, and I knew nobody was going to answer it, so I gave it up, but I would bring it back together again.
Yeah. I don't want to monopolize if other people have
Jane,
thoughts.
What?
those sound like a lot of questions sometimes the schools ask. Like when I was at Goodwin, they did the coffee with the principal type thing, and sometimes, you know, the teachers would talk about the curriculum, whatever that they're doing, but then they would throw those types of questions in. It And I know, and Ray would probably agree with this, when we had one of the trainings in the sustainability training in the summer, that was one of the things that we were talking about, the transportation issues, the housing issues, and it's like a big topic. So those types of questions, I don't want to say, the word I want to use is target the schools because it is, it's a factor for them, and especially now with the development, affordable housing on South Eagleville, it will still be a factor. Do they feel safe? Do they feel comfortable? Do they feel included? Those types of things. I don't know how we can get the schools information from the schools, or being able to ask or put
Well,
something in the
way we
backpack or
can get the information is to ask Peter if he will let us distribute the information. I don't see that as a big problem. It's just we have to know what we're doing so that we're not overlapping with lots of people.
right.
Right. And that
you-
we're getting meaningful input for all the goals.
Right.
Yeah, don't want to ask a lot of questions that the town's setting expectations about that doesn't intend to respond to or not have the ability to. I think it could be, yeah, this merits a lot of thought, I think. Especially if we want to go deep into the community and get input from a lot of people, and collaborating with like Jessica, the Human Services Director, and other folks.
Lynn and Rebecca, would it be helpful if we talked a little bit about like why the nonviolent communication came up?
Sure, yeah, that's.
Yeah.
I know we had talked about it a little bit. So
Yep.
Jane, I gave them a brief background from my understanding, but I know you had this come from a different event that you had worked. So I was hoping you could kind of talk about that a little.
You want me to answer that?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, well,
I
we
yeah.
got, no, that's okay. We got feedback at the Interfaith Dialogue, and we said, what do you want next? And they said, we want training, and it's nice to know that we have all this in common, but we still don't know how to have a conversation where there's conflict and how to get beyond the conflict to common ground. And so that's why we did this, because it was requested by the people that attended that workshop, that program. And they said that one of their big issues was they needed to know how to talk to people who had differences of opinion so that they could get past, I think this and you think that, and let's have a fight. And so that's what this is about.
That's cool. How did you get that feedback? Were they
Gave them a piece of paper and I said, what do you want next? And that's what they wrote.
And I think there was some discussion afterwards too, wasn't there, about like what was good about it, but also like other questions on how to talk about it.
What happens next? There was what really the question was. What
Right.
else
And
no.
so this training can also, I think from the contract, this is just a first one, and then we can train people in the community to be able to host, right, or do their own talks on this. Jane, I'm not 100% sure,
Yeah,
but
well, that's my idea, but I have kind of, I must say this, in absolute public, I have experienced a singular lack of enthusiasm from the town administration. Nobody seems interested in this. It's been very frustrating. But my goal originally was to do a 2-hour workshop and teach everybody, because it's a training program, teach everybody how to go through the 4 steps of nonviolent communication. And it's something that anybody who's a counselor is very familiar with. You would recognize it immediately. And then ask people, would you like to learn more about how this works so that you could be a facilitator in your own group, whatever that group happens to be. So it could be town organizations, it could be town employees, it could be people in local churches, whatever. So my idea was that we would have a 2-part or a 3-part process to really teach people how to do this nonviolent communication. But this is the first step, and it will cost money. So as we go, we're going to have to figure out how we pay for it.
Where'd you get the money from?
Well, we have a budget and we have the money to pay
Oh.
the facilitator for this one. And we do not have the money to pay for an extended series of workshops. But if I were to get the town government or the town manager interested in this, or the director of human resources, who's already said she would be interested in it, to collaborate with us, I think we could get a buy-in from several different places. It's not that expensive. I think the whole thing would cost something like $5,000, and we could round up a good chunk of that, maybe charge people $25 for additional training, something like that.
I've received some feedback on that. I think that, I know we're being recorded, so I have to be careful what I say. I think the nonviolent communication, it's a bad name. I think anybody that hears that immediately says there's no violent activity in the town of Mansfield. They kind of react to that, they react to that word. I know 3 department heads that I've talked to that resent the fact that we are trying to train their employees. They have their own training plans, training programs. And it's kind of a lack of collaboration. We kind of did this without talking to them. We expected they would join us without knowing what they're actually doing. And some of the departments are doing this kind of stuff. So I think there is definitely some resistance in town government, and we'll just have to work with that.
Yeah, I mean, I can't change the name because that's the name of the organization, and it's a global organization. And it isn't targeted at town employees at this point. It is targeted at anybody who's interested and wants to learn how to do this stuff. And if some of them happen to be town employees, that's fine. But it never even occurred to me to try to get the town involved, because I know they have their own training programs. But I'm not getting a lot of support anyplace for anything. And it feels very frustrating. If we have a Human Rights Commission, we need people to say, we're going to support you in the work that you do. Let's talk. And I'm not getting any of that. And it's frustrating.
Lynn and Rebecca too, as we're talking about this a little bit, it seems like, I don't know if this is true, but it seems like this might be a little bit broad too, what we're hoping to do, or the surveys that we're doing. Is there something where should it be a little bit more narrow in scope so that we can address like maybe a more specific issue or an individual issue? How would you suggest? Because we have not, we haven't done one of these yet, and I know you guys have the background, so.
Yeah, I mean, I think this survey, like we were talking about before, to create an equity statement is, it could be useful. I think Kimura could give a lot of guidance. She's very direct. I've worked with her for a few years. She's gonna be, might sound critical, but she's gonna be pointed that, like, if you just said, like, we're grappling with how to get input on creating an equity statement that's a joint vision of the community, and especially those that might feel it's not an inclusive and welcoming community, I think she'll have a lot of ideas. It might not be a survey, it might be something else. Yeah, I don't know. Do you have thoughts?
Yeah, in the earlier thing that we were talking about, we had like a more specific scope of like who we wanted to ask within it. Like we were thinking like people who live in the mobile homes, or maybe specifically like seniors, or people who are older, people who are near retirement but aren't retired yet. Like that was our scope. Personally, I feel like if we were to combine it would miss the right term, like target demographic in both circumstances. Because if you're trying to look at an equity statement and you're thinking like, well, maybe you want to talk to several different groups of people to understand how it comes to play with equity in the town, and I think it wouldn't mesh well with what the other equity survey that we are also planning on doing.
Meaning the one with the human services?
Yes.
What about for like something else in the equity toolkit? Because I mean, as important as us having an equity statement is, I know that we can use the Board of Ed ones for that specifically. Not that we're using it, to put it down the line, but just knowing that we want to make sure, we hit the equity toolkit too.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question. I think the heart of this is who lives in our community that we're not hearing from, that we need to hear from. And I don't know, it looks like a lot of interesting folks on the committee. Maybe other folks have ideas of populations that feel underserved or maybe not that welcomed or whatever. That it's almost like you don't really know what the topic is going to be till you find someone who's feeling not no access or not engaged or not welcome. And then you have to ask them and listen, and then you create something out of that. The whole idea of this is that the town changes the way they're doing business or creating a program because they've heard from someone that they don't usually hear from, and they're like involving them in the co-creation of a new program or idea. So, like, there are a lot of folks on this call that might have some connections or background there.
I'm not sure what you're asking us to do. First, we were going to try to get a survey and take it to places where people have stuff to say, like the senior center. Now we're talking about going out and looking for people who nobody ever listens to, and we don't exactly know where to go except in the mobile home parks and have interviews. Now, interviewing is a different process than doing surveys.
The thing that I was talking about was for the human services, not this. It's a
Well, we
different.
need to know what what you want the Human Rights Commission to do.
Well, I mean, that's what I'm asking. What are you hearing or maybe aware of as individuals in this community of opportunities to address needs that aren't being addressed by any kind of, I mean, it could be people that don't have access to cars, or people who, or very young kids, or a race or a religion. Of course, that comes to mind first usually, but there are all kinds of subgroups of people that, you know, are not welcome or don't have access to services for a variety of reasons. And so, yeah, I think, Jane, Monica, I appreciate Monica kind of like broadening the thing, like, well, maybe the survey isn't the thing. I think we're just kind of like thinking together of where is a need where we could provide some value to the community, and not so much have the answer at the moment, but be open to listening and finding a need that we could perhaps help clarify for the town.
Okay, Sonia, did you get your audio to work? Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask you a question because I think it's pertinent to this. You have this idea that you want to do a mural about immigrants that are in the community, and you want to do something like the Martin Luther King thing. Where'd you get that idea? Because immigrants is one of the populations we're talking about. So could you just explain to us a little bit about what you think and how you figured this out?
Sure. I think I did a mural in my middle school, and I really liked it. And then with this UConn program, they're really encouraging like different forms of engaging in human rights. So art was one of those forms, and I just kind of I feel like it leaves a more lasting like physical image on the community, and people look at it and then they can like walk up to it and learn about it a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
As far as like immigrants goes, I think I used to live overseas, and my parents worked with human trafficking. So I think I've always been aware of like immigrants and refugees, and I just really like to help them out.
Do you have, are we aware of refugees in our schools or in your social circles?
Not so much. I feel like in schools, they often try to minimize the refugees almost to make them like stand out less. They do try to help them if like they need to learn English, but I feel like they don't wanna like point them out in a way that makes people pay attention to them. So they often just kind of ignore them, which isn't really helpful.
You know, it's very frightening for those people to be pointed out. They don't want to be noticed, and I understand that. But it seemed like you had a good idea, and you got it in an area that Rebecca's that Lynn's talking about. So I thought maybe we could put those two things together. Well, how should we proceed with this? Because this completely changes my idea, which is fine. But I feel like you want us to do something, and I'm not exactly clear what we want to do. We can't just go walk up to total strangers in the street and say, "Hi, how's your life?" You know, we have to have some kind of organized, systematic approach that is respectful and not intrusive.
And can I just provide, I think, some clarity? I might have jumped a little bit too fast, I think. So there are two separate things. There's the equity statement, and then there is the equity toolkit, which can involve a bigger, I don't want to call it an event, but like something that is a little bit more long lasting, to my understanding, right? So whether that's maybe a community garden that needs to be put in place, and you get that input from people maybe in the mobile home who might not have the same amount of land, or whatever it may be. So I think there are two separate things, and I think one is going to have to be a little bit more pointed, whereas the other is going to be a little bit, like the equity statement could be a little bit broader, but probably not as broad, to my understanding, I think, from what Rebecca said, is what we were thinking originally. Is that more clear? and
Yeah,
concise?
so the equity toolkit is usually seen, like the process is valued in equity toolkits before something is implemented. So it's a lot, as you're saying, talking to the community. And we were saying the equity statement that you're going to create for the town can count as an equity toolkit if you get community input from it. And if you're looking at certain populations or certain groups of people that are typically not heard of and have maybe experienced less equity compared to other people, or just, have been discriminated against, or just are not in decision making, hearing them can, and then using their input to create an equity statement or change the equity statement to be more valuable to their experience can, that's an equity toolkit right there. And how you go about it is something that can be discussed further. But it's not, when the thing I was saying before regarding the mobile home stuff, that is a separate thing. I was under the impression that someone was talking about combining that equity toolkit with the equity statement equity toolkit, and I said to keep them separate.
Got it. Okay.
Well, I mean, Sonia has identified a group of people, refugees or immigrants, or both, or one or the other, as a group that certainly would be really interesting to connect with and hear how it's working for them here, and what they might need. Whether the result is a mural, like maybe we don't make that conclusion of what the solution is yet. It might be one thing to celebrate their heritage or showcase it for the community or something. But I mean, that could be a start if that's of interest, identifying folks like that in our communities and in our community, and understanding what needs they might have.
I think there'd be a little clarity too. The equity statement that we're talking about is not required. The town's already getting their points for their
Right.
Connecticut. So the equity statement that we're doing is really separate from that. I mean, it's not something we have to do under the go. We don't have to do anything at all. I mean, it's something we thought we wanted to do. So, the toolkit helps you get points. I'm not sure, we're not looking to get points with this statement. We might help in getting other areas, address other areas within the toolkit, but as far as the actual statement goes, we don't need to do one, first of all. We think we should, but as far as sustainable CT goes, we don't have to. There's the one for the town, the Board of Education. We're not gonna get any more points, no matter how well we write it. We're not gonna get anything for it. It's gonna be it's already covered.
Right.
Yeah,
It-
unless you get points on
Oh,
process.
yeah,
So
Right,
right.
unless in creating a broader equity statement than just for the schools, you've involved people who didn't have a voice, and that's tricky. Because you're actually, yeah, I mean, it does feel hard to boil all that down into then a statement by the town about what they're gonna do. It's a little easier to talk to a group of people that feels underrepresented, that needs more access to transportation or foods or something, and then help make the bridge to a solution for that. Sorry, what were you gonna say?
Oh, you covered it already.
So yeah, I don't know that we're necessarily gonna come up with a solid plan in a few minutes. It's but yeah, what do other people have thoughts?
I always have
Sabrina, you look
thoughts.
very animated on your screen. I feel like you have something to say.
It's just very interesting. I've looked into sustainable CT before and wanted to attend the workshops, but I'm on the Board of Education as well, so it wasn't necessarily. It's odd. It was something like officials other than on the Board of Education count. So that was kind of a deterrent for me. And I said, huh, I wonder if it would even be helpful if I were to go. But it's a very interesting topic, and I agree. I don't think this is going to be wrapped up in tidily in a few minutes. I'm an immigrant. I talk with a lot of immigrants in Willimantic, but maybe not as many in Mansfield. I'm a Yukon alum, so I think with Yukon being half of the town, that's definitely not an area we want to neglect. And somehow, I feel like congregating them might be easier than other populations possibly. And I speak Spanish, so I'd love to talk more about how we can access people who might be living in their own bubble because they might not feel very welcome in certain spaces.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you have thoughts on how to tap into, like, for example, the immigrant community in Mansfield?
I mean, I've known people who have moved recently, so I feel as though talking to them and doing sort of an exit interview about the town might be interesting.
Yeah.
Or utilizing the library has been super helpful in a lot of ways. I know on Facebook, for example, I suggested a chess club, just throwing it out there. When people found out it was going to happen at the library, they thought, wow, that's a great place to congregate. So I know on the Board of Ed, we've done events, for example, this past August at the library that had a few more parents attend than we thought would happen. It was all about talking about cell phone use in schools. So yeah, I think there are definitely possibilities of using the public spaces in town, but as far as getting people outside to talk, well, politically, obviously, we've heard a lot from people who feel disenfranchised because Mansfield's such a blue town. But yeah, it'd be interesting. I'd be curious to find out what you think constitutes a big enough group of people that would necessitate change. Because if one person is upset about something, it just seems kind of difficult to extrapolate something that will change an entire equity statement based on that.
You can tap into even EO, when they have the Cultural Awareness Brigade and the Parents for Racial Justice. I'm assuming those groups are still up and running. I don't know. But I know that was a big thing. And when I went to one of their meetings last year, they had that company, the organization come in and did a survey with the students of how they felt within the school. And I know that's still a big issue. It still is.
Mhm.
My son, who's still friends with a lot of the people here, you know, they still feel uncomfortable. You go to Willimantic, Sabrina will agree with me on this. You go to Willimantic and there's going to be a new restaurant opening, Mofongo, Puerto Rican American food, right? So you have Vietnamese, you have African American, you have Brazilian, you have Puerto Rican, you have Chinese, and what do you have down in Mansfield? How many more pizza places are going to be there? Right? So why aren't people coming to Mansfield?
Yeah.
Affordable housing, rent is too high. Why is it too high? Are they trying to keep, other people out? Are they trying to keep it, college town? Yeah, my brain just keeps going and going and going and going.
Hey, wait a minute, I want to stop this conversation because we don't have a focus. And this is a group that meets once a month for a little more than an hour, and we need a focus. We cannot be messing around here. What are we trying to, the question that Lynn just raised, who is in our community that we want to hear from? How do we go about doing that? What process will happen? And it seems to me that I would like Ray and me to talk to Kimura, have us set up a plan and then start doing it. Because we're going around in a lot of circles. We've spent more than a half an hour on this. We have other things to talk about. And I'm not willing to spend this very precious time just wondering. I'm not that kind of person. So
what are we allowed to do?
Pardon me?
Sometimes we come up with ideas and you have all the, you
Right,
gotta
and
get disapproved
I
and
have
got
finished
approved.
with that part of the process. I'm just telling you. So if you want me to withdraw from participation, I will. But what are we trying to accomplish here? And how can the Human Rights Committee? I mean, when Ray said that we don't need to write another equity statement because we're about points. Okay, then let's get that off the table. What do we need to do to be supportive of this effort in this town? I can tell you what people need. We have a survey from a couple of years ago that probably has not changed, that was done by some very sophisticated social scientists. We know who isn't getting what. Janine, your son might be our biggest resource. Just let's go to a pizza joint with your son and all his friends, and we're going to learn a lot because of who his friends are. And if what we need to do is talk to people, we need to go out and find some people. Your son knows a lot of people. Sabrina knows a lot of people. I keep feeling like we need to go to the mosque and find out if there are some people there who would be willing to sit down and just let us know what they think. We should go to that African-American parents group at the high school and find out what they think. I mean, there's lots of resources, but how are we going to proceed? Because we could go on talking for a very long time, and we don't have a very long time. So what does everybody think about that?
Can I just ask a quick follow-up question? You have a survey from a couple of years ago that has all this stuff. Would it be worth looking at that and seeing what
Very
came out
worth
of that?
looking at that.
I'm
Because
sorry?
they did quantitative stuff and qualitative stuff. They did it with a social science graduate student. We categorized all of the answers on the qualitative stuff. I did that. I read that. I got the themes, and I can almost recite them from memory, and I doubt that much has changed.
It's
Well,
probably
what
from,
stood out?
Pardon
Who
me?
needs something? What did you learn? What are the three main
Well, here's
themes?
the big number. This is the one I always say to everybody. 70% of the people in Mansfield feel totally delighted with being here. They think it's the most wonderful place they ever lived. They all happen to be straight white. Most of them are in committed relationships. Many of them have children, and a lot of them are Christian and able-bodied. Those people are very happy here. Then there is 30% of people who, for one reason or another, don't quite fit that description. They don't get treated respectfully in the stores. They don't feel like their children are being, the teachers intervene well in the public schools to protect their kids when they're being harassed by other people's kids. People laugh at them in the streets sometimes. They're very uncomfortable in public spaces. We don't know if we didn't ask anything about the community center, but everybody goes to the community center. And it seems to me that we could ask people in the community center, are you comfortable and safe here? Because people come in there, and I go there all the time because I swim. They come in there and they kind of sidle up to the desk because they're guests and they're not being treated. The desk staff is wonderful, but do they feel okay on the basketball court? Lots of people bring their kids to play at the community center. Do the kids feel safe? If they're little, they probably do because their parents are with them. But what if they're teenagers? Loads of teenagers go there to play. That's what we found out. We already know that there is inadequate public transportation, although it's better than it used to be. We know there are problems with translators in town government and any business you have to do with the town, because not everybody speaks English as their primary language, and they don't get the kind of service they would like, or they're not as easy about asking for service. And then I am sure, and I don't know how we would handle this, there are lots of students who are, the DACA people, what do you call those people? The dreamers, who are not here with documentation, but they're here. Now, if they live in Mansfield and they want services, do they feel safe getting services? I know UConn does everything they can do to take care of them, but if they live in town, are they afraid of anybody noticing them? There are lots of people here without appropriate paperwork, and they don't want anybody to know they're here. And my sense is most of those people live in Willimantic, but some of them live in Stores. So that's what we know. And the record is, I can give you the record, and I wrote it all up and I typed it out and gave it to, it's been a report in the town council a couple of years ago.
So
We know all that.
Well,
I-
I think a good thing might be, and maybe a good starting point would be for everybody to see that. Let's
So
see that gross
I-
data. And let's look at it and kind of get focused on off of that a little bit, see what we can take.
I think that thing tells us who doesn't feel included. Oh, and there's one other thing, and we didn't ask about this then, and I think we need to ask about this now. Cultural representation. I have been asking for 2 years for them to change the artwork in town hall so that we don't have a bunch of white farmers as you walk, or white, whoever they are, these old guys hanging around a bench. We don't have them as the picture that greets everybody. I went into the Board of Education office yesterday, and they have a young woman with a chador, beautiful portrait of her hanging on the wall. They have people from all over the world in their artwork in the Board of Education, but it isn't any place else in town hall. I have asked repeatedly, please, to review the kinds of pictures that are hanging up, and nothing has changed. So there you go. I mean, that's my frustration. I've been working on this for a long time, and I'm not seeing a lot of activity. Some of the little things we've done have been very helpful, but when you come right down to town government, I'm not seeing anything. And I
So-
quote what Mayor Moran said to everybody one time in a public meeting. She said, you people have gone so far beyond what we anticipated that we really don't know what's coming next. So I don't think we can count on them for any kind of leadership, which is fine. We can do the leadership, but we need the support. But that's what we know. We can get the survey, we can get all the statistics that were written up, and I'm sure I can find someplace my summary of the qualitative information so you can look at it. And my guess is it's pretty similar. Hasn't been one.
I pulled up the survey results. I have at least the quantitative ones and some of the qualitative ones. And it is from 2021. So we're looking at summer of 21 is when this was completed. I do know that in addition to some of the things that Jane had said, is affordable housing was a big one that came up continuously, always is. Which is part of where I think a lot of our hope to have this joint session is. I mean, I can tell you, people come into town hall and talk to me like, how do I find affordable housing? Can I get in contact with the housing authority? How does this work? And, we send them to the right places, but that is something that is continuously being, talked about and questioned, I would say. And I'm happy to send this out if anyone thinks that it would still be like pertinent. I don't know if 3 years now, a little over 3 years is a little bit too far. But
I don't think it's too far. I think even if it's only a baseline, I think it would be very helpful for people to know, because I may be the only person who, Barbara was also involved at that time. And the two of us are the only ones who participated. And we wrote the survey. I helped write that survey.
Yep, no, I was there.
Sabrina, you were there. Okay.
I'd love to see it if you don't mind sharing it out.
Yeah, I think it should be.
Yeah,
It's public information. I would love to have it shared.
Here. Hold on. Sorry, I lost you. Okay, I don't know how to put it in the chat. Can I put it in the
Oh.
chat? I
Just
can,
email?
I can email it to everybody.
Yeah.
Yes, you're also welcome to come on down. I can print it for you if you'd like. Because I think you're still in town hall too.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
We'll save the paper.
Okay, no worries. All right.
So
Well, I
where
don't want
are
to take up too much of your
where
meeting.
are we in this discussion, and what do we need to do next?
I think, would it be important maybe, or a good starting point to find maybe a group that we are hoping to target to talk to and to like start there? Maybe we say seniors, maybe it's young families. I know Janine works a lot with, in the library, has worked with, students too for the quilting project. Is it immigrant populations? Is it maybe, people with like an ESL background who might not speak English in the home, but speak, but do in schools, and maybe talking with the kids there? What population, or even students, UConn students is another one.
I mean,
Yeah.
if I could just say, thank you, Jane. I think the survey that we did is still pertinent. I think the number one thing that came up was affordable housing. At least that was true at the senior center when I went down and talked to them. I think as far as the immigrants, they're in a tough place right now with the political climate. And I think I can understand why a lot of people would not want to talk to anybody about that, at least until after the election. Let's see how things go, because there's a lot of talk about the immigrant community, and I don't want to get into politics here, but I think that's a very touchy subject at this point, at least until after the election. I don't know. Okay, that's all I have.
Okay, Micah, do you want to say something?
Well, I mean, my only concern, right, with all this is that I get it's all good intention, but what I want to be careful is if we're asking people to take their time to do anything, what are we going to do with it, right? And I realize that we're hands of time, we only can do so much. I do get that, right? Someone says, well, the biggest thing is affordable housing. If we can't do anything about that, then I don't want to waste someone's time for them I mean, unless all that they want to do is they want to come complain, that's fine. I'm open to just hearing that if that makes them feel better, but I don't want to take their time to just do nothing with it, right? And I don't think anyone on here does, but my concern is that we do this, we take the time of some population or some group of people, and time is the one precious commodity that we have. And that's my biggest concern, right? Is like, what do we do with this information? How does it go anywhere? And because I don't feel comfortable taking the time, right? Like of anyone's time to do that. But if we have a plan, like if there's like, okay, we're going to create something with it, or we're going to do something with this information, here's what we're going to do with it, this is why it's going to be a value, then that's fine. But I just want to make sure that we're going to put the value to it. And what is it then?
Thank you. That's a very good point.
Micah, real quick, you'd be surprised if you start asking people, just for kicks and giggles. I did something that Jane brought up, like, I don't know, a couple of meetings ago, just start asking people. And I did, and I targeted a couple of high school teachers that I knew of, and I asked them, what are some of your big concerns? What are some of your big ticket items in regards to human rights within Mansfield? And there was 3 different teachers, and one of them came up of food security, housing for their students, because some of them were still kind of like, they were like bopping around different houses. But I'm like, hey, just humor me. And they knew, and I would talk with them. Same thing when I do the paper quilt with the kids. I start talking with the kids, and then I start talking with the parents. I don't get too personal, but if I had like a couple of, I go tomorrow to the library. If I had a couple of questions, I could reassure them that I will take your answers down. There is no name on here. What are some of your concerns in regards to, what do you feel? If I could do something impromptu, give you some feedback, or if anyone on the HRC, throw me some questions that you would like
Okay,
for
I
me to
think,
ask.
Janine, I think that's a great idea, and what I think what you could do, and I see who takes their kids to the library. Every population you're talking about has got their little kid by the hand going to the library.
You've got it all. You
The
have kids that
Asian
have
people, all
health
the little
issues.
Asian people, and they're hanging on to their parents. Everybody's like, all the Latino people, they're all taking their
Yes.
kids to the library. So that if you are talking to kids and their parents in the library, and all you ask them is, what's it like for you to live here in Mansfield? What are your concerns? And write it down and give it to us. We'd have a place to start. Because that is a
Right.
wonder, and the other place to go would be the senior center, and I'm sure they'll complain about everything because they always
And
do.
I'll hook up with Coach Kelly and with the CAB program and see if they're still doing the Parents for Racial Justice.
Yeah,
I'm
and
sure
I
that'll-
would be very happy to go talk to anybody if I had a contact person. So if you get some connections and you need somebody else to go talk, I'll go listen, not talk,
Okay.
just ask.
All right.
Did we
Gotcha.
address Micah's point? Did we address what Micah brought up about what are
I
we
think
going
so.
to do with the
It's about the time. Mike, if I'm misunderstanding, it's taking time away from them because time is an issue and the political climate and everything. If you ask them and you make sure that they feel secure, like I'm not taking your name or anything like that. And it's just, if you are giving that opportunity, hey, would you like to comment? They will comment. If they don't feel like
then-
making a comment.
Okay, and I think the answer to Micah's question is, we're trying to find out if everybody feels welcome here. Right now, we're just asking for information. If you give us a couple of minutes of your thoughts. When we get more information about people needing specific services or supports, we will then start trying to feed this into the town council or the appropriate department to see if we can improve the quality of services. But right now, we are data gathering. And I think if we say that, and that is our intent. We want to find out, how's your life here? Do you feel welcome? Do you feel included? Do you feel represented? And ask as many different kinds of people as we can, put that all together, put it in a written document, and then we can figure out where to go from there.
I
What
think
were
that's
those
fair, as long
words
as
you
you
said?
say, as long as you say you just collect, right now, we're just in a collecting phase, and I just don't want to write any promises that we're gonna do something with it. If we, I
Right.
want them to see it if they feel like they do it, but I agree, if you just say that, and then, and that's fine, I just think we also gotta be like if we want it to be statistically significant, right, not that I'm an expert on that by any means, because I'm not, that's not, my expertise, but I get hearing from a few people, and the people that come to the library, that's still a select group, right? And I hear you say, well, everyone does that, but there are groups that don't go to the library for whatever
Sure,
reason
right.
of people. So no matter what we do, it's going to be selective data, right? And that's fine. We just need to own that as we do it, and just be very transparent about that. That this is a select group of people. This is only done at this area and this area, and that's who we got, and that's fine. And then if we have a discussion to see where we go from it, I mean, I can support that.
Yeah, and I think that's exactly what we are doing. And I think that will contribute to the sustainability effort, but it's not going to make it the major focus. The major focus is, what's our work about human rights with people in Mansfield? And now we're trying to collect some data so that we can support people who don't feel supported. That's what we're trying to do. And we're going to get some quote unquote points for it, and that's great. But what we're really trying to do is support human rights in the town of Mansfield. So,
Jane,
all
can
right.
we move, Jen, I just wanna, we got a young lady from E.L. Smith that I'd like to give her a few minutes to talk. So we can get her,
Yeah,
we can kind of switch gears a little bit. She also
but
has, I guess, one of
switching
her.
gears is called altering the agenda, and it's illegal, but I think we can figure out a way to do that, because Sonia has been very patient about all of it.
Yeah,
So you're having a public comment, Sonia. Would you please introduce yourself to us and tell us why you're here? Because we're very happy to have you. And there is another name on my screen, but no picture, and I don't know who you are. Could you please say hello? Do you have a camera? Other person?
I think that's one of her advisors.
Sorry,
Hi.
hi, I just lost internet and got kicked out of the Zoom, so I just had to rejoin it. Hi, Sonia. I am the UConn student working with the Human Rights Close to Home program. So I've just been like listening in and taking some notes for her while this meeting goes on.
Thank you very much. How do you pronounce your name, please?
It's Zen.
Zen?
Mhm.
Okay, that one I can remember. All right, Sonia, tell us why you're here. We would love to hear from you.
Yeah, so it's nice to be here. Thank you all for adding me last minute to your meeting. I am a sophomore at U.S. Smith High School, and I'm in the UConn Human Rights Close to Home project, and over the year we complete a student action project. So I was hoping, I'm really like in the beginning stage of planning, but I would like to paint a mural somewhere in Mansfield in order to like promote positive awareness about refugees, because lots of people are aware of immigrants and refugees in Mansfield, but they don't necessarily know like, a lot about them, and especially with like the political climate, and there's been some negative things going on about them, so I just kind of want to like support them in any visual way that I can. So I was just kind of wondering, like, any suggestions that you have for my project, and like who you recommend that I get in contact with.
Okay, so you want to make the immigrant community in general more visible. You don't want to pick on anybody to make them visible, but you want to let everybody know who lives here, who are the immigrants in this community. Is that correct? And then you want to transform that into some piece of public art.
Yeah.
That's the idea. And you are looking, and it's going to cost money. And I gave you the name of Glenn Matoma, who was the guy that got the grants to do the Martin Luther King mural. And I really think you need to talk to him as a start, because he can give you some guidance on what the process is. What could we do to help you? Would all this data gathering help you with information about who's here? How are you going to figure out who to put in your mural?
Yeah, so I think I have reached out to several other organizations. So I've reached out to a couple of local artists in Atlantic, and I reached out to the community center and you guys, and some of my art teachers. So I do have plenty of people willing to help me paint the actual mural. I just don't have like ideas on where to put it necessarily, or like how to get permission to put it up. So
Okay, well, you're going to have to decide who you want to emphasize in this mural, what the mural is going to look like. You're going to have to find an artist. You're going to have to find a place to put it.
So-
And then you're going to have encouragement from all kinds of people in the community. Where are you in that process right now?
honestly, I kind of just started. So
Okay.
I think after I work on my proposal, I'd be happy to come back and like show you my design, and hopefully get some endorsement from you guys to like promote it to the people who I'm gonna paint for. Yeah.
I think and also like a really important part of this too is making sure that it is a town property or not, and getting permission from who that is. So like the community center is clearly a town property, so we would like, it would be us, that would, or not us, but the town manager who would need to approve of that and then bring that to council. But if it were, I don't know, like a local business maybe, then town might not own that land, so knowing who to get approval from is also really important in that. So maybe as you're crafting or making the mural, you can think of where you'd like for it to be seen, and that's where we can help you kind of go through that process.
Monica, would the town council on the arts be helpful here?
The Arts Advisory Committee,
Arts Advisory Committee.
Yep, so that is, I think we had emailed, I'm pretty sure I responded to that email too.
Yes.
I did put them in there. I think that if you've talked to the community center, the staff at the community center runs the Arts Advisory Committee and staffs it. So I think it is Bethany right now. I'm happy to give you her contact information if you'd like. I'm not sure 100% of what they do, but they might be another resource for you.
Yeah, I think they can give you kind of aesthetic perspective on what would be feasible and where it might be a good place to put it, and just a general framework for you to work within. It's a process. It's going to take a while, but I think it's a wonderful idea.
I just want to mention, I do know Sonia from when I worked at MMS, and she is an exceptional young woman of tremendous background. She did live overseas for a while. She did missionary work. She has a great heart. She's an exceptional student. I just can't say enough about her. She's one of the best students I ever met at MMS. So, you know, we're going to remember her name, Sonia Harville. We'll continue to work with her. You know, she's looking for us to help her. We're looking for her to help us. So I'm going to build a relationship here. I think that we can continue. And I'm going to talk to her tomorrow about some things, and we'll go from there.
Okay, and Sonia, Lynn and Rebecca have just posted some information for you on the chat and a couple of good links, so why don't you take a look at that? And Barbara Vaughn has said that her husband is on the Arts Advisory Committee, and so I'm sure she would introduce you to him, and I think we've got some resources for you here to keep you moving.
I'm also emailing Bethany and yourself. I'll put both of you on the same email so I can make that introduction, and then if you want to try and attend their next meeting, I can also get you that date in about 2 minutes.
Yeah, thanks. That'd be great.
Yeah, absolutely.
So have you got enough from us for now? So we can go back to finishing with sustainable CT?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very, very much for coming. Thank you for sitting through all the rest of this. And Jen,
You're welcome,
thank
you're
you
welcome to
as
stay,
well.
Sonia, but if you want to go, you can go.
Just also, Sonia, it is November 12th is their next meeting, regularly scheduled. So I'll put that, well, I'll put it in the email, and Bethany can just double check that that is what they're planning to do. So you're welcome.
Great. Okay, let's take stock of where we are so we can proceed and finish our agenda. Lynn, do we have enough stuff to get started gathering information to satisfy you that we're getting involved in this?
Yeah, you don't need to satisfy me. We just wanted to coordinate. It sounds like you're gonna kind of informally survey people by asking question of, I forget, do they feel comfortable in Mansfield, or what is life like for them here, or something to that effect, right?
And we're going to target populations that we, as we have access to them comfortably, ask them what they think, and we're going to try to target several different populations. So we'll have to talk about how we do that. Janine's got the first access, which is in the library, and then we need to do some other stuff.
Yeah,
Micah,
that's
Micah,
great.
heard-
And that I think that things will emerge from that. And
Okay,
again,
now I
I'm
understand.
encouraging you-
I understand the process now, and it makes a little more sense. Micah, it just occurred to me, in your capacity with the union, you have a lot of international faculty. That's another group we could talk to, because the odds of them living here are as good as anybody. Do you think you could round up a few people who might tell you what they think?
I mean, I could, so I'm part of the staff union, and that's the faculty
Oh,
union.
right, I'm
ACU,
sorry.
but I could reach out to AACU to just, if we have a question, to ask them and get some information from them, because I could just reach out to the union. They should be fine providing some information to us.
Yeah, well, if you could kind of make that your special focus for adults who work at UConn and live in Mansfield and didn't start out their lives here. And then just ask them, how is it for you to live in Mansfield? Do you get the services and the support you need? Do you feel welcome? I think those are our questions. And
Got it.
again, tell them this is absolutely anonymous. We're just trying to get a handle on how everybody's doing around here who didn't start out here.
Okay, you got it.
And plan to have some information for us by next month.
I'll do my best. I'll send the email out tomorrow and see what I get back.
Thank you. And remember, lots of people like to be talked to face. They don't respond to emails. We know that. Okay, is there anything else we need to do on this subject, or can we move to the rest of the agenda? Speak to me. I'm moving. Lynn, go ahead.
I think we're fine, if you're asking me.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I just want to put emphasis on the fact that doing an equity toolkit is a process. It's not something like we were talking earlier in the meeting saying like we got to decide what we're doing tonight. It's not going to happen. It takes time to do these type of things in order to get, useful information out of them. And I think the people here are understanding that very well. And that makes me very happy. But just know that, it's going to take some time to do these things. But in the end, it will be very much worthwhile to make sure that the people in your community who are usually not heard will be heard.
And that's the goal.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, that's good. All right, I think I need to get a hold of Deborah about the nonviolent communication workshop. And I need to know who's planning to attend, because I don't want to do this all by myself. I will be the host. I will introduce the speaker, and the library will do all the setup and everything. But I need a couple of other people there to be welcoming, to fill out feedback sheets, all that sort of stuff. Janine, you're going to come? Thank you. Barbara will definitely be there. That's wonderful. And Ray will be there.
Yeah,
Okay.
Jane, what time do you want me there? Because I have in my calendar 1:30 to 3:30, but then you just said 2 o'clock. So
It's
what
gonna be
time would
good
you like
for- If
me
we get there by 1:30, I think that'll be fine.
Okay, and we're at the Buchanan Center, right?
We are. Thank you, Barbara.
Okay. Yeah, definitely be there.
Good. Okay.
I'm looking forward to it.
I'm looking forward to it too. I know it's going to be good. I just hope we get enough people, and I really want a lot of people because this woman is good. I mean, I have interviewed her and talked to her for about a half an hour, and I've done this stuff for a living myself, and I recognize good. She's good.
Okay.
So it's going to be a good workshop. Bring your friends. All right. Last thing on this is the Celebrate Mansfield booth that we had. Janine and I were there for part of the time. Sabrina came around a little bit. Ray came around a little bit. Feedback, thoughts on how we did? Janine says, yes, I think it's the best participation we've ever had. We had a lot of people talking to us. We had a couple of vote for the human rights that are the most important to you. And I have that data still in my car. I haven't brought it in the house or counted anything yet. Janine was doing her little quilt and talking to lots of parents and finding out what they thought about things.
And
Little
passing out
children were
stickers to random
And little
people.
children were putting stickers on their shirts. And I felt like we really had a good environment and we had good interaction with people. And it was a lot of fun. So whatever we did, we need to, and all our candy got eaten, which is always good.
I was only there for a short period of time, but it seemed like being on that side street.
Yeah, Sabrina asked me which location I like better. I kind of like the side street, but I don't know if that's the best location. What do you think?
I thought it was my impression when I was there. It seemed like there was more people that were spending more time with you than we did when we were on the main street. Seemed like from last year, I think people just kind of walked right by us because they were going on to someplace else. But I think on the side.
No, I think what happened is who we were stuck. I'm going to use the word stuck. Who we were stuck next to. It was the game with La Playa Foods or something like that.
Okay.
Oh,
And
yeah.
that's why I went out and started handing stickers to whoever was in that long line, like Mansfield Human Rights Commission. So I think it's a luck of the straw,
Yeah.
really.
But I
Yeah.
think I was able to, it wasn't so crazy. So I was able to invite people, and anybody I saw who thought might be interested in human rights. And by that, I mean anybody in the 30%. Hi, come on over. What's it like for you to live here? How's your kid in school? And I had lots of good conversations with people. So I thought we did a good job, and the activities we had engaged people, and they love this thing. I listed 10 human rights that were really, I thought were the most important ones and the first in the list. And then I gave everybody stars and I said, vote for your favorite 3, the top 3 that really matter to you. And people love to do that. They like to take their little star and stick it on the poster. So, and of course, in stores, the top human right is education. That's no surprise. But everybody got to put their little star someplace and they were pleased with that. So I think we did well.
I think it was very welcoming to have you sitting out front with a chair. When I went by, it was like you were right there you were right there accessible. I think that was, I don't know if you designed it that way, but to me, it seemed like you were there to be listened to, and I think it made you stand out.
Well, thank you. I was sitting in a chair because I couldn't stand up, but
I understand. I know the reason why, but the effects or the appearance of the whole thing was great. The optics.
thank you. And that's great. Okay, so we have a consensus that now the next one of these that we have to decide whether or not to do is the winter welcome thing with the controversial not Christmas trees. So just give some thought to whether you want to, we don't have to participate in winter welcome. It's cold, it's uncomfortable, and unless you get stuck inside, it's really difficult, but we could do it. So just think about whether you want to spend time doing that.
When is the winter welcome? Do you have a date?
No, I don't have a date, but it's early in December.
Okay.
Okay,
I
now
have a
we've done
thing-
a comment. Are there any other member reports?
Oh, Jane, I do have, I don't consider this a member report, but Margaret did email you just before the meeting a press release draft. She just
Oh.
wanted to go on. It looks like it went out at 5:45.
Okay, I haven't seen it.
Mhm.
I will take a look at it after this meeting and then respond to her. Good, because we really need to crank up the publicity on this thing now. And I'm really sorry that the town officials don't like nonviolent communication, but that's what the name of the organization is, and we don't have a choice. And I tried to mitigate that in the flyer by giving what it was all about and what people would learn if they came. So let's just focus on that you will learn to have conversations with people you disagree with and walk out being at least cordial, if not friendly. And that's the goal. Okay. Are there any other member reports? Has anybody else been doing anything that we need to know about?
I'm gonna be going to this Saturday library movie,
Oh, good.
Summer of Soul. It's a documentary. 1969. They were calling it the Black Woodstock.
Yeah.
And it seems, I saw bits and pieces of it and it really seems amazing. And then this past Sunday, I went to the NAACP Youth and College meeting in Pomfret, watching what they're doing, how they're trying to coordinate more and more with Pomfret. And they were also watching a movie called The Great Debaters. That was,
Oh, that's a great movie. That is a great movie.
it was awesome. It's based on a true story, and the woman, they changed the name of the character, but her first name is Harriet Bells or something like that. The real person, awesome, just blew me away. And then, like I said, tomorrow I'm going to be doing the quilt. I sent out a letter to Superintendent Dart and the 2 principals, and I CC'd you, Jane.
Yeah,
I have yet to hear anything, and I highly doubt I will, but I want to go into one of their PD days and just say, listen, no cost to you really, no big of your time, but this is what the goal is, but I haven't heard anything yet.
yeah,
I'm-
okay. Well, follow up
trying.
in a couple of weeks. I'm going to follow up with the town manager and see if I can get a meeting with him because I'm getting real frustrated with this. I mean, we either have a human rights commission or we don't. And as Micah said, you have to know what you're going to be doing with your time, and I have to know what I'm going to be doing with my time.
I have a question for you and everybody real quick. Do you think that the powers that be or whatever, because human rights touches base on a lot of different things, like a lot of different committees, do you think they think that we're redundant on that?
I have no
'Cause
idea
you have
what,
like affordable housing, you have the Mansfield, advocates, you have, you know what I'm talking about. I can't come up with all of it. Do you think that?
I'm trying very hard not to be redundant, and I have no idea what they think because I haven't spoken with them lately. But I mean, what I've decided to do with this committee is to focus on, let's let everybody know what human rights are. And I'm planning on doing a series of articles, and if anybody, Mike, I want you to write one. And Ray, you can write one too. Pick a human right, and we're gonna write like a 10 to 12 sentence statement about, this is what a human right is. Does it have anything to do with you? And put it in the town newsletter or someplace. Because what we need to do is to let everybody know what human rights are, and most people don't. And that is not redundant. That has a focus.
Jane, you mentioned one of the mayor's comment to you once before, earlier in the meeting today. This is, my sense is that we are bringing up issues, for example, affordable housing, that there's no real quick solution. So politically, like, we're raising a lot of issues and bringing a lot of momentum on things, and the potential is we could do a lot more of that. But then there's no solution, there's not a quick solution. So politically, that's a bad place to be, because
Well, you
we have
know
a lot
what?
of people- there's just, we're not gonna change the housing market in Mansfield. It's going to be, houses that are worth, it's gonna go through the roof. Housing is gonna go crazy. The university's proposing to add all these additional students.
They
when
are.
it comes to present enrollment, and,
Oh,
this
God.
town's got, there's forces that are just, we're not gonna be able to address. This is an expensive town to live in. And unless we build projects, we're not gonna accomplish affordable housing in any quick fashion whatsoever.
Well, I think
I
that's
think
what's
that's the worry that people have, is that we're raising issues that we can't provide any solutions for. And that is frustrating for everybody involved.
Well, the affordable housing thing has been complicated from the beginning, and that's what stopped us, because there isn't anything we can do. But we can do plenty about people not being rude to each other. We can do plenty about people feeling safe in the streets. And I think that makes a lot of people politically uncomfortable too. And I haven't raised that because I'm trying not to end my life by causing fights. But what does it take to hang up new paintings in the town hall that doesn't look like people who've lived here for 200 years? Nothing. It takes no effort at all. And the only place I saw anything was in the Board of Education. So I think that really is the problem. Our job is to make people uncomfortable, and they're not going to want to jump in and say, oh, thank you for making me uncomfortable and being aware of my white privilege. They're just not going to do that. So I've spent a lot of time trying to figure out, how do we work around that? Because my normal way is just to throw it in their face and see what happens, and that doesn't work. That's what comes from growing up in New York. So I think that the issue really is that our role is to make people uncomfortable. And that's the way I introduced myself to Ryan's administrative assistant. Hi, my role is to cause trouble. Who are you? Which she enjoyed very much. But we don't have to be nasty about it. And I think what we need to do is to continue to say, there are people who don't feel paid attention to. There are people who don't feel safe. And it's our job to make that better. And that we can do. Happy to say hello. But Ray, I think you're absolutely right. So, all right, I need to go back to one more thing, and then this has gone much too long. Ray, either you or you and I need to talk to this coach and get a handle on what role she expects us to play. I know everything they told us. That's why I let go with that outburst. Of course
Really
it's a
it's really vice versa. She's really willing to meet our needs. So I'll talk to, I can take the.
We
bullet
need we need to hear from her how to proceed. What
Uh,
comes next?
All right, I will communicate with her. I will send you copies. I will try my best to get her to attend the next meeting. I'm trying to avoid, we have that political, legal issue of having these subcommittees. We don't want to get into that kind of mess, but I'll try to get her to come to the next meeting and I'll do some back work in the meantime and.
Tell her we need a
keep you all
focus.
informed.
We really need a focus.
I understand and I agree completely.
Good, okay. Joni, you're gonna talk to the grown-ups who don't start out in the United States who work at UConn. That's your job. Okay, Janine, you're going back to the library. Barbara, you're gonna show up at the thing on October 19th. Sabrina, if you can be there, please be there. And you are going to help us find people who want to tell us what life is like in Mansfield for them, and they're gonna be people who didn't start out here, okay? Everybody's got a job.
I got a
Is
member report too. I just want to say that I've been continuing to work with E.L. Smith. I mentioned last meeting, I want to get a member from that school
Oh, yes.
to be a member on this committee. I think you might have met her tonight.
I was
think-
thinking the same thing. If she's got, I mean, people that are that
I'm gonna
good are
talk to her.
usually,
I told her in the chat between the two of us, I'm gonna talk to her about this and see what she's willing to do. But I
'Cause,
think
and
she'd be a
people that are-
fantastic.
people that are that good are usually overwhelmed with everything they volunteered for, but I immediately thought of that. Let's invite her to
I'm
participate.
gonna talk to her about the possibility.
That would be wonderful. Okay, anybody else have anything else you'd like to share? I'd like to entertain a motion to adjourn. Micah.
I'll make the motion.
Moves and Ray seconds to adjourn. The meeting is now adjourned. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thanks,
Thank
everybody.
you all.
Thank you, Monica. You were great.
Monica's
really
always
helped.
great. She's not there, but
We'll make you an honorary member.
You're the best, Monica.